Emotions. Do you think mine are high right now? You better believe it. I'm excited. I have the butterflies. Every part of me is saying, run off the stage now. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to deliver you an idea that I think can make a difference in your life when you're facing chaos or a critical decision. My son, he likes to say, the best day ever. You know the moment when you want to jump out of your chair and celebrate? Maybe it's a graduation or a personal best, or you close a deal that you've been working on for years, or maybe just a T-ball home run. These are the boundaries that we want to keep pushing of great emotions. But we don't live here. We work to get here. We live in a normal, multitasking, every day of trying to connect with people and cook dinners and making decisions. This is really the calm space. Calm every day, right here. And then, 3 a.m., have you ever gotten a phone call, worst of your life? Tragic news about a loved one? Maybe someone's been diagnosed with cancer. Or so many people that I know are talking about end-of-life planning for their elderly parents and family members. Hospice, talk about a DNR order. Really the things that touch the heartstrings, and we really don't want to be at this boundary. As responders, we get right in the middle of people's living rooms on their worst day ever. And it's inevitable that I get in a conversation with someone, and maybe the kid comes out in them or something, and they look at me and their eyes get big and they say, tell me, what's the worst thing that you've ever seen? Every time I think the same thing, and I'm sure other responders do too when they get that question. I don't want to remember the worst thing that I've ever seen, and you don't want to hear it. These are images in my mind that I only wish that I could forget. But what I do want to share is the tools that we use to solve emergencies. I think they're unique, but they're no different than any of your problems. The perspective, it's big picture. We approach with a big picture, and we come up, and the key is, it's not our emergency. We come in here to facilitate a problem, and we work on the task to change the outcome of the emergency. Everybody has problems. Some are complex. My son had a fever last night. No big deal. We took care of it. But others are big problems, right? You name it. You fill in the blank. And the more complex a problem is, the greater level of strategy that you need. Go back to the cancer call. Your life is turned upside down because you have to coordinate family and doctors and all the things that are required to mitigate how you become a cancer survivor. It's no different than an emergency. Flames flying out of a building. I have 30, 50, 100 responders. It's an area that you put these two things in, level of complexity and strategy. And we drive to the upper corner, and we call that command. It sounds like a big name, but it's something you do every day. Command is the operations, the logistics, the planning, the finance, the communication, and the safety of everybody involved, whether it's your family or your organization. And I got to tell you, the longer this goes on, the more exhausting it can be. It takes a tremendous amount of focus and energy. And you need help. Sometimes you need help. Otherwise, it's too easy to get overwhelmed. Some of the best are in here. And I know supermoms do this all the time. So, over the last 20 years, I used to respond to calls all the time. My responsibilities changed, and now I end up running the day-to-day operations of the administration. We're dealing with disciplinary issues, highly sensitive political issues, problems that I need to be able to put my head down at night and sleep. And we had to set up a framework that we could do this. And one of the things that we found that was involved in here was emotions. Emotions run high, right? Sometimes when you have to make decisions. Let me give you an example if this is an axis. You see the guy in the back that's sleeping? That's low emotions. Me right here now, high emotions. The next piece is strategy. And when I say strategy, I'm talking about problem solving. That's it. You implement the strategy. So let me try to paint the picture. I think you could fill in the boxes if there were 4 quadrants here. A couple hours from now, you're walking down Main Highway, and all of a sudden, 2 cars. 2 cars collide. You hear, help, help! You're a block and a half or so away, and you saw a silhouette of smoke and some metal flying around. You walk up with a little bit more intensity, and that person's screaming, help, help. They're on the side, watching what's happening. They're not doing anything to try to solve the problem. Next person pulls out their phone, and they start to video what's going on. This is real life. This really happens. You walk up, you say, has anybody called 911? Deer in a headlight. You call 911 with the phone. You go and you look in the vehicle. You see there's 3 patients. They had their seatbelts on, a little bit of blood. They're banged up a little bit. Airbags went off. You come back anxious to say, hey, what's going on? Is rescue, fire department, are they coming? Person can't make any sense. They don't know where they are, what's going on. So you say, can I please have your phone? This is Eric Lane. I'm on the 3500 block of Main Highway. There's been a 2-car accident. There's 3 people involved. Please send help. You answer any questions, cool, calm, collect. Be very specific about where you are. Fire rescue shows up, police show up. You set strategy in place. You started to change the outcome of that emergency. You end up going and having some drinks or dinner, meet some friends. 2 hours later, you come back. It's as if this accident would never even happened. The patients were transported to the hospital, treated and released with some stitches and some broken bones. So, can you relate to that feeling of panic? Remember that anchor that I talked about? We want to throw that anchor out, and we want to pull ourselves in the direction of calm. Maybe it's this visual, maybe it's a word, maybe it's something that you remember. And in a calm space is like an air-conditioned room where you make decisions, you make plans, and in emergencies, ideally you need to be here. But I think when the pressure's on and your heart is beating fast, it's inevitable that your emotions are high. We talked about command, that high emotion, high strategy. It has the potential to be there. Now, you probably really want to be a little bit closer to that strategy line. But there's people in here that are the best of the best at what they do. Whether it's putting complicated business mergers together, conducting surgeries, something goes wrong, they can cool, calmly, collected, fix the problem. Super moms, emotions, you got to deal with us, husbands. So, exactly opposite of command is really a dark place. And call it desperation. Suicide's another name for it. This happens to veterans 25 times a day. And it happens in different industries to different people and can touch just about anybody. The unique thing about suicide is that if you see someone in a suicidal state, I guarantee you will get them help. Guaranteed. That theme rings true through this entire process. You have to know who and when you're going to call someone for help. So let me see if I can put this to real life in a real emergency. Sitting in my office in a nice calm space, having a meeting about operations, a few people in the room. All of a sudden, our radios go off for a drowning of a toddler in a nearby pool. We stood up and we walked to our vehicles. Nobody in the room unit was called. All they called was Key Biscayne Rescue 1. The ladder truck pulls out, the rescue truck pulls out, and I pulled out in my personal car that probably doesn't look much different than yours. We're going down the street, they pull into the complex, and they take a left to the north, and I take a right. I trusted that whatever they saw on that side of the building, they would relay to me if it was pertinent. And I took a right because I needed to see the big picture. I got my equipment, and I had this mental vision of what I was going to see. I was familiar with the complex. I've held children in my hands. I've done CPR. I was hopeful we had something that we could work with. As I approached the deck of this pool, just out of this frame here, I saw a mom holding a child, her head just out of the water. And I looked, and her eyes were open, and she was breathing. This moment of relief, saying, yes, we have something to work with. I got down, and I got in front of her. Literally, she was in the pool. And I said, what's going on? And as I looked down the side of the wall of the pool, I saw her arm, this little one's arm, was inside a pipe that was inside of a concrete wall. thinking to myself, this is poured concrete. How are we going to start? I literally took a deep breath once again. I told Mom, we're going to get your baby out of here. And I backed away and I radioed to our units, Key Quint 1, Key Rescue 1. I described what was going on. I said, we need masks, snorkels, chisels, hammers, anything we can do to chip away at the concrete in order to extricate this little one away from the wall. There was a gentleman that was standing there. He didn't know what he was in for. I said, sir, can you hold this umbrella over their head? 2.5 hours later, he was there. The eye in the sky came up. The media was there with their helicopters where these videos are taken from. And it was protecting them, maybe with a little bit of privacy from the sun. Water temperature definitely wasn't 98 degrees. I knew the city of Miami was coming in. I said, Engine 4, can you pick up a wetsuit from the Miami Aquarium? Captain on the Quint, can you go to the pump room and make sure that the power is killed so we're not actively sucking on that pipe? We need pumps from Public Works and engineering from the building. We need to pump water out of this pool, and I only had 8 people on the scene. We needed more resources and more tools. City of Miami Technical Rescue Team responded. These are the experts with concrete cutting tools. They have these giant trucks. You think of them as trucks, I think of them as toolboxes. A few hours later, most of the water is drained from at least this end of the pool. We have an environment that we can work in. It was extremely confined. We had over 40 responders on the scene. Painfully, we cut into that wall, and we were able to separate her. In that moment, it was like when my son was born. Took me back. And it was really an amazing moment. Just that separation right there. I have to tell you that I was so proud of our responders that we were all focused on the same strategic goal. We were looking at the same bullseye. Any one of them will tell you the same thing. This is just what we do. We were looking at the same target. Nobody got hurt. And we were able to get this little one to the hospital and ideally change the outcome of that emergency. We're fortunate in the community that we live in that I'm able to see this little one and her family on occasion. And every once in a while I get a high five. And I got to tell you, it's one of the coolest high fives that I ever get. So, are you ready to put this to work? You want some take-homes? You've heard me say this already. It's not your emergency, right? You have to see the big picture. Really important. Think strategically, not emotionally. The framework, easy, right? Those 3 things you got to remember. Say it with me in your head. It's emotions, it's strategy, and you throw that anchor out and it pulls you towards calm. It's the way that you separate yourself from those emotions. That framework will give you a reference. And finally, there's a piece I missed that I'll share with you. It's called a 360. And the 360 is this constant input that you get. And really, it's from the people that are on your command team. It's your advisors. It's your family. It's the great people that organize this TEDx event. And I wouldn't be standing here today unless I was able to get those inputs. Let me give you an example of what it is. There's a house fire right here. We want to be able to walk around that fire all the way, single family home. We want to walk all the way around it. We want to look in the backyard and we want to make sure there's not an empty pool or an empty pool that one of our firefighters can fall in. If we put a ladder up, we want to make sure that they're not going to get electrocuted. We want to look for all the pitfalls and all the opportunities for success. And you have to know who your team is. Those mentors I just talked about, you have to call them. Maybe it's a CPA, a mental health professional, or even an attorney. I know there's an attorney in the room somewhere. Sometimes you have to pay for that advice to get that big picture objective. So I have a challenge for you. Put these tools to work. Every time you see a responding vehicle, lights and sirens running down the road, whatever it is, think about the framework. Think about what you're going to do to solve problems when chaos is looking at you in the face. If you apply these tools, I guarantee you that it'll have a positive outcome on your life, on your family, your business, and probably most of all, your relationships. I would like to thank you, and it was truly an honor to be here. And I'd ask if you could dedicate any round of applause to the amazing people that put this Coconut Grove TEDx event on.